I'm going to need a little participation here. I want you to raise your hand if at your birth you were given at least 3 names. Okay? Now keep your hand up if you remember the first time you heard all 3 names. Now raise your hand if now all of a sudden you recall the first time you heard all 3 names was when you were in trouble and your mom was calling you. Right. You see, it was fun at my house because I have 4 older brothers, and Mom had to go through the list to find which one she was yelling at and then call out all 3 names, right? But then it's an amazing thing that we learned that about our mom, right? We could learn our mom's moods and know what she meant by the way she was calling us. You know, we could learn how, you know, if she was mad, she called out every name that you had and probably made up a few along the way. But if she was excited, it was a different call. And we learned who our mom was, right? Because we lived with her. We learned who she was, and we learned how to act around her because we knew her. And some days, you know, when we walked up and you could tell Mom was in one of those moods that she didn't want to be messed with. And like good sons and daughters, we continued to mess with her until she was in a better mood. Well, you see, I'm the youngest, like I said, the youngest of 5 boys. So at some point in my life, I forgot my middle name. I had to go ask. But isn't it amazing how we can learn people like that, right? We learn people that we work with. We know when we walk into the office or our workplace if the people around us are in a good mood. And they know us, right? Whether or not today's a day to pick on someone, I guess you could say that's usually what happens around me. But anyhow, that we know how to treat the people around us. We know what kind of day it's going to be. Because we learn those people that we work with. Because we spend time with them. And soon we learn that sometimes the people we work with are completely different people at home than they are at work. But we may not hang around with them at home. So we don't know that part of the person. And you see, but, you know, I've been here for almost a little over 3 years now, and a lot of people have learned who Deacon Brent is, right? See, you can go out in the streets and say who Deacon Brent is, but those people only learn about me. The only way to know me, in my little try at humor sometimes, is to be around me. And it's the same for all of us. And you see, as Catholic Christians, we have to know that Jesus is the Good Shepherd, that Jesus wants us to spend time with Him so that we can learn who He is, not just learn about Him. You see, because if we just learn about Him, if we only know about Jesus, then we don't have that relationship with Him. We don't know who Jesus is. We don't know what He wants for us. You see, if we only come to Mass on Sunday and listen to the readings and listen to the homilies and all of this, and trust me, if that's all you do in your life right now is only come to Mass on Sunday, don't stop. Please, don't stop coming. But Jesus is calling us to more than that. He is calling us to have that conversation with Him each and every day. See, everyone I know prays every day. I really don't want to think anything different than that. Because you see, we all have to have that conversation. The only way to know who Jesus' voice in our life is to have that conversation every day. And you see, if we say that we don't have time to pray, then we shouldn't have time for anything. We shouldn't have time to watch TV or listen to the radio. You know, a couple of homilies ago, I made the statement that I was a recovering newsaholic. Well, that's been challenged. My family says I'm not in recovery at all. But you see, we have to listen. We have to pay attention to what we listen to. Are we listening to the Master? Are we listening to the Shepherd? Or are we listening to the world? What's the first thing you do when you get up in the morning? Do you turn on the TV? Or do you thank God for another day? What's the first thing you do when you get in your car and go to drive? Do you ask God to protect you as you're on the highway? Or is the first thing we do make sure it's on the station that we like? So that we have all that noise. And you see, our whole life is surrounded by noise. And we can't hear Jesus if all we do is listen to the noise of this world. We can't hear the Shepherd if all we do is listen to the noise of this world. So I challenge you today that in your prayer, that you add 5 minutes of silence. That when you pray, when you sit down in the morning, in the evening, midday, whenever it is in your life, that you take the time to spend with Jesus. And if you say you don't have time, make an appointment, write it down, and stick to it. So that you spend time with Jesus every day and spend 5 minutes in total silence. You see, I used to come to adoration, and I would spend an hour in adoration, and I would be praying or begging or asking, however you want to call it, whatever category it falls in, for the whole hour. I would be asking Jesus for the things I needed, the solutions to the problems. And I told someone the other day, I said, you know, I have never seen a vision of God. I have never heard God's voice. But I have gotten more answers out of an hour with Jesus than anywhere else. But most of the time, those answers don't come when I'm in adoration. They come when I'm walking to my car, when I leave, because that's the time that I finally shut up and listen. That's the time that my brain stops moving, that the Shepherd can speak to me. You see, we have to commit ourselves to listening to the Shepherd. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again, that I don't believe the problems of this world are going to be solved in conversation. They're going to be solved in silence. When we can learn to listen to God, who knows the problems, who knows the solutions, and we stop trying to solve the world's problems and listen to Him who has all the answers. We need to learn who the Shepherd is, because He wants nothing but great things for us. You see, we're so busy living, that surviving from day to day, that we don't really get to live the life that God wants for us. In the second reading in Revelation, it talks about all of those people who stood with the white robes and palms and praising God, stood before the Lamb. Those are the people who learn to listen. Those are the people who learn the will of the Father and to follow the Shepherd. Because we are His flock. We are the ones that He is calling, that He wants with us forever in heaven. And He wants us to listen so that He can guide us there. You know, my favorite quote from St. Francis de Sales, and I'm sure there's a few people here that can probably quote it for me, but anyway, it's St. Francis de Sales said, everyone needs a half an hour of prayer every day, unless you're busy. Then you need an hour. We need to learn how much we need Jesus Christ. We need to learn how much Jesus Christ needs us, wants us to listen to Him. Jesus Christ is challenging us today to listen, to be quiet, to be still, so that He can instruct us, so that He can lead us. And we need to learn to stop listening to the world. We need to walk away from the noise and spend that time with Christ, the Good Shepherd. Are you willing to take the challenge to spend 5 minutes a day in silence? listening to Him.